Okay, it's 5:42. We're going to call the meeting in order. We now have a quorum. Did you want to do roll call for us? Do you want to just do roll call?
Yeah, let's go through it. I'll call people out. Lawrence Friedman,
Present.
Jasvir Malik,
Present.
Tomas Izaguirre. He's not here. Julian Ratnowski, I'm present. Hilda Torres is not here. Rene Gonzalez is not here, and Justin Heather.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Great. Make a motion to excuse the 3 absence members.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
No, motion passes. All right, citizen comments. We have one citizen comment. We'll keep it open for a few more minutes in case anybody shows up. But we'll call those at 5:45. Miss Alexander, would you like to speak?
Well,
Or would you? We can wait for the agenda items if you'd rather. But if you
it
would like.
doesn't matter. I would say the same thing.
Okay.
Thank you for meeting. Thank you for having this Business Improvement District meeting. I'm hoping that this meeting could be regularly scheduled so that I can share with other downtown stakeholders when the meeting is, and they can pencil it in pen in their calendar and maybe try and show up. So on today's agenda, I've been trying to, I feel like part of the role of a business improvement district is to identify needs in this area. And one of the needs that is increasingly becoming a concern is security. And but I don't know because I don't work for the police department, and I don't know what the crime rate is downtown. I know that I have heard from some of our tenants and the surrounding tenants that they feel like there's been an increase over the last, I don't know, couple of months or so. And one store owner has been hit 2 times successively. So I tried to, in the interest of this community, I tried to find out what the crime rate is in downtown Laredo. And so I've been trying to access that information. I thought it was public information. And so I submitted a FOIA request, and I submitted another one, and I have one in there right now. And it has not been easy to obtain. I really thought I thought crime rate was public. I thought I could call any city, ask them if I was gonna buy a house in an area, ask them for the crime rate there, and they would tell me. Does anyone know?
I don't know exactly what is public, what is generally shared. I mean, those statistics are generally public knowledge. There are a couple different databases you go online that are not necessarily from the city of Laredo, but that provide crime stats that sometimes can be broken down pretty small in terms of the area that it covers. I've done a little bit of that just in some of my overall economic development research, when folks are looking to locate in a particular area. So I've used a couple of those websites just to kind of give prospective developers an idea of what the crime rate is like, but I don't know about the city of Laredo. I assume it's generally going to be public knowledge, but I just don't know if that's captured somewhere on their website.
I'm hoping that this group, the Business Improvement District, is able to obtain the crime statistics for this area so that if we ever get funded and have a staff to work alongside the city to police the area with additional staff and support, that we can't do that. We can't identify how much we need to address it, the need, if we don't know what the need is. Okay, what else? And then okay, so that was on that. So I'm hoping that, I don't know, if you have to take action or something, I hope that the next meeting that we have some crime stats on the table to look at. Official, not, I heard this guy got robbed and I read in the paper that someone was arrested or that kind of stuff, but official, there was 40 arrests, or there was 2 arrests in 2023, something like that, like numbers. And then I'm hoping, today I was at a Economic Development Committee meeting, and we did support repopulating the downtown parking committee, and I hope that happens, because every potential business person, operator, entrepreneur is gonna think about parking when they consider opening a business in downtown. And I have parking concerns, and I don't know where to go with that. Are y'all interested? And so I'm hoping that by next month that's addressed. It's already created, that parking committee, but that it gets populated and starts meeting again. That's all.
Thank you. Next up is approval of the minutes of the prior meeting held on January 11th, or actually February 7th, 2024. Those minutes are in your packet. Once you had a chance to review, I'll entertain a motion to approve or amend.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and approved, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, item passes. Next up is our action items. A is discussion with possible action regarding crime stats for 2023 in downtown. We unfortunately have not yet received those. We have requested them, but have not yet received those materials. So, I'm happy to discuss it, but I think we should probably, I would, request that we just move this to next month's agenda and try to obtain those in advance of the meeting.
I'd just like to mention on the discussion side, the reason this agenda item was put on is the police department created a whole new plan for policing the downtown. And it would be nice to see, for the implementation of that plan and what the crime stats were, and then after, to see if that plan that they implemented is improving policing or improving or limiting the amount of crime, to kind of fall into the trap that Mrs. Alexander laid. It feels like there's been a lot of more complaints of crime that have been going up, but I really want to see the data, if that's true, or is that more of a feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And is this within a given area or in general, within the CBD area?
The complaints that I've gotten are within the CBD along Iturbide Street of break-ins.
On break-ins?
Which I find quite alarming, since that's probably the most active street right now in downtown. So usually you see a lot of crime in inactive areas. So that's why, it feels like crime's up, but who knows? Is the policing strategy working across the entire CBD?
Right.
Well, we've had our store hit twice during the broad daylight. They just come in, walk away with the product.
Recently?
Recently,
Like in the past 2 months?
yes.
Yeah.
And we called the local PD, and it takes them almost an hour to get out there. By the time they're gone.
Yeah. So, but yes, Miriam said she's working on collecting that for us, and we'll probably have it. I asked her when she gets it if I can then disseminate it immediately, and that's what I'll do. But yeah, that's all I have on updates for A.
Agreed. Next up is discussion and possible action regarding the City of Laredo Parking Committee.
Regarding that item, so Laredo paid for and anyone can chime in if they know the exact specifics, but a parking study of all of the downtown to generate, an answer to the infamous question, do we have enough parking? And if we don't, what should we do? Part of that strategy included, one, the answer to that is surprisingly, we somewhat have enough parking.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that we have is that there's a lot of private parking. So like at night or at certain hours, that, kind of available parking gets locked up, or, even the city sometimes locks up their public parking. So they designated all those areas, especially city parking spots, and last time I checked, they've actually activated a lot of stuff that they used to not have out there. The other thing was to create a parking subcommittee to give recommendations on what to exactly do or focus on. I think the issue on why that parking committee kind of fell apart is it didn't look like a lot of people were listening to the parking committee, which should have driven a lot of what is a part of that plan. One of those things being they did recommend raising the rates in the downtown, strategically. What the city did is they just did it, and they actually didn't go through the parking committee, which was the recommendation, to say this is something to implement, but you should do this and then use those funds to then fund the creation of parking structures. So since that committee wasn't used, I feel like that may be one of the reasons it's kind of died away. And I think it's something very important that we, even though it's outside of our scope, it is something within the city, and it is something that totally affects the business improvement district all within the boundary. Mm-hmm. So that's my 2 cents if anyone wants to.
And as far as the parking, the thing is as far as that absorption of the parking, and depending on the hours that it's going to be used. So basically, the focus that we'd be looking at as far as this transition, the way I'm seeing it, and bringing in the people that we're talking with, and Zaragoza Street and Convent and what have you, it's like coming out and revamping some of these areas to bring in new businesses, smaller businesses, and I think that during the day, as far as what we've been saying, as far as just the mall itself, and then going in from, let's say, our arteries, and I'm saying arteries between Iturbide, Lincoln, Farragut, Hidalgo. I mean, it seems like during the day, so our problem comes out at night. It seems like, during the evening, and we've discussed opening up Convent, having angled parking all throughout Convent, from, let's say, from Zaragoza or Grant Street all the way to Matamoros. I mean, it works. This all works. I remember going out there. Jimmy went out there also, and we met with all these different committees. The thing is that implementing them. That's the other challenge that we have. Absolutely. But I think that between night and day, between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's one set, and then throughout the day is another. I mean, night and day.
I know one of the big recommendations in there was, and this is maybe where we kind of slightly pivot to what the TERS is doing, was that there's a lot of availability. There's more availability of parking if we did angled parking.
Yeah. So, over the course of 23, it took several months and a lot of back and forth working with our engineers and folks in the city, but we did get agreement on one of the plazas to do angled parking on 2 of the sides.
Yeah.
The problem is sort of the width and making sure you have the right, because most of the streets have parallel parking on both sides. And so there has to be a certain width, like 32 feet or something like that, curb to curb, and then you can do angled parking on one side of it. So we were able to, on one plaza, do two of the sides, two of the blocks on that plaza. Angled parking, that added 9 spots just on that one.
And that's
for
that we only did 2 sides.
2 sides.
So-
and that was because, like, the side was a little narrow and you had the police station, and so you had to block certain, certain areas. So on some of the other plazas where the streets are wider,
Right.
it's much more likely that we'll be able to add angled parking throughout. And I want to say the number was closer to 25 additional parking spots for a couple of those.
In one
Once
block?
you convert, no, for the total plaza, like all 4 sides.
Okay.
Once you convert that all from parallel to angle on all 4 sides, it'll be a plus 25 for that.
For each square block,
Yes.
essentially.
So you'll add
That's
25 more
huge.
spots just
Right.
on one plaza. And we had 3 sort of in mind. We got to the first one. The city's working right now on the restriping and obtaining the kiosks for it, so that you don't have the two-headed monsters
Right, right.
sort of things, and make sure it's flexible in terms of pay. Some people want to use the app, some people want to use a credit card, some people want to use cash, and so
Right.
making sure that we have something that works for everyone.
So the city's covering those improvements. It's not coming from TERS funds.
Correct.
Oh, that's
So it's good. And, restriping is not that expensive, so that was a good thing.
Those machines
And
are.
The machines are, but in the end, they pay for themselves, with, sort of, and there's a quicker turnaround on those, so.
Awesome.
The ROI is good, so that's phase 1. But we do have our eyes, and we have engineers. I think KCI was the one that took the lead on that. That they did a lot of studies, and they used their CAD drawings so they could show that all of this is legit. Worked with the city to show it complies with the OSHA principles, for traffic and everything like that. So had some really good conversations, and finally got that one pushed through. And then now, as we're sort of wrapping up phase 1 on our tours, we'll move to the next round, and I'm hoping that will be a part of that. Tours can help at least be a part of the solution on the parking.
What about parking for the handicapped? There's only one handicap parking in the entire downtown area.
That I don't know. I mean,
Did you know that? Did you
in
know
terms of tours, I didn't know that, number
Where-
one, and number 2 on
Exactly,
tours, I had
it's
no
right
clue.
on. It's on Santa Maria, where the city parking lot is.
Santa Maria and Grant.
Santa Maria and
In
Grant.
between Grant and Zaragoza, so all those
Yeah,
properties
there's
out there.
one handicap parking in the entire
There's a
downtown.
salon, like
Really?
event center right there.
Isn't that neat?
Santa
Well,
Barbara.
that's another issue. That's another issue for the city, so I'm sure that's
In that block that they're redoing, I remember seeing handicap in that plan.
In the plan
I
there
don't
was.
remember how many. Yeah.
I know there was at least one, because we could have had 2 more, but we would have to have gotten rid of the handicap spot.
Okay. So now there's 2.
There
In
is
theory.
one on Hidalgo and San Agustin also, Parque Plaza. There is one over there also.
The whole idea for handicap folks is not to walk.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So we need them scattered throughout.
Correct.
the day.
And then
No,
we
I
just
agree.
have to fix the sidewalks a little bit. Just a little bit.
A little.
Yeah.
That may be the reason why
We're trying. And, and to that end, the TERS had its meeting on Tuesday, and one of the things we learned was we had gone out to bid for the street improvements.
Right.
And didn't get any bidders. So we made some adjustments to, or are in the process of making adjustments to the RFP, and hopefully that will go back out to bid, and we'll know by next month, but that will address some of the, for the ramps for the handicap parking,
Right.
just in terms of some of those are really curbs, they're not ramps.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that will be, and those plans are very good on that, a lot of zero escapes when it comes to the corners.
So if I can make a motion on action item B, it would be to request that city staff talk to the council members that do the appointments for the parking committee to make sure it's filled back up with committee members, but also to probably tie those committee members with all the future parking spaces that can be added by different angled parking, because that's easy, low cost, instant impact to the downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that parking committee within the city is more important than ever. That's my motion.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up on our agenda is discussion and possible action regarding partnerships with Webb County and the city of Laredo. I think this item, I don't think there's any action necessarily to be taken today, but, part of this is our overall, as we develop a strategy for the bid and what to do next. One of the things that we sort of looked into was that with the TERS, we found that tax receipts are lower than originally projected. And those tax receipts from the TERS are directly tied to commercial property values.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you were to activate the bid and collect assessments, those two would be tied to commercial assessments. And if the TERS is lower than expected, the business improvement district would be lower than expected. Add to that the issue that federal, state, city, county properties are not taxed or would not be subject to any assessment, whether it be from the TERS or from the bid. But those organizations also benefit from the improvements. We ultimately want to have a discussion through the city once we come up with a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of have some estimates that we want to work with the city and the county to seek some form of monetary support or in-kind support to help some of what the bid ultimately chooses to do going forward to help maintain downtown, either maintain the tourist improvements, to address security concerns or any other activities. We would ultimately want a partnership with both the county and the city so that everyone's downtown.
I agree. There's a lot of assets that the city and the county own that are just naturally within the business improvement district boundary and will benefit, from the service line by the business improvement district. So reaching out to those city officials and those county officials and start those discussions as early as possible is as important as developing that service line.
Absolutely. Okay, next up, the presentation item is just a discussion regarding our downtown summit. I don't know, Julian, you wanna?
Yeah, so we finally have locked in dates. We are April
22nd through
22nd to
24th?
the 24th. Those are the locked in dates. The agenda is essentially still being created. The first 2 days is going to be the IDA, which is the International Downtown Association, that's going to be coming in and basically doing an assessment of our downtown, interviewing property owners, stakeholders, business owners, nonprofits, and basically anyone or any organization that is directly affected by the downtown and what's going on. That's going to be day 1 and day 2. Day 3 is going to be the actual downtown summit where they're going to be presenting those items. And then simultaneously us as the business improvement district, the idea is that we schedule a workshop to include getting feedback from the property owners,
Mm-hmm.
or representatives of property owners in the downtown on what they would be looking for if a service plan was put together. So the idea is after that summit concludes, like the minute it concludes, that we will also host a separate section in the same location, everything to be out of convenience for those actual property owners to then, so we can all work with them as board members and get some constructive feedback on what they're looking for, what their needs are, what their concerns are right now, because sometimes they may not know what they need, but they know what's wrong, and that's where we can possibly get some expertise on figuring out on what's wrong, what the service plan solution to that would be. So collecting as much of that as possible that day would be really important.
I've mentioned to one of our council members that it would be very, very important for those stakeholders that are out of town, if we can somewhat do a video conference with them.
Yeah.
I think that would be very, very important. Just some of these people just can't make it.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, everything was geared up, and
Mhm.
things changed. But anyway, I'm just bringing that up.
For the summit, especially day 1 and day 2, I know that's already been discussed on how if there's people that are out of town that we would accommodate, or sorry, not we, the IDA would accommodate by using Zoom or
Perfect.
Google Chat or whatever other video conference is available, and that's how they'll communicate with those out of towners. But I actually like that recommendation also for, you know, as us, the Business Improvement District, at the end of that whole summit, when we do ours, maybe there's stakeholders that won't be available, and we can also use that channel too.
Yeah, and then I think for the bid discussion, one of the things we talked about last month was we had shared sort of what I call the first draft of an outline of services, and people had some comments, and I took some notes, and you know, the goal would be that, you know, next month at our bid meeting, you know, in the earlier part of the month, that we kind of go through that list again, throw out some other ideas, and then that when we all go and present, you know, whoever is up there at the event presenting and talking about this, that we sort of put these up on the board and,
Right.
you know, have folks say, this is what we've kind of mapped out, you know, do you agree, disagree, what else should be on there?
Mhm.
And then between what the IDA collects from business owners, what we collect at that place, and then I know we were talking about a survey last month where we can send it out to property owners and business owners. Hopefully from all of that sort of information gathering, enough outreach that, you know, by the summer, we're looking at what an actual plan would look like, you know, and trying to come up with some numbers and financially what's feasible in the near term or long term.
Mhm.
Okay.
Great.
Also, you have to look at the dates, because the dates you are saying, it's Jewish holiday. A lot of people won't be here, even on the video chat, you wouldn't get, because the dates you're telling me, it's exactly Passover.
Oh, it's not gonna happen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And motion second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.